I hear a lot of people say autism didn't exist in my day, but I want to show you something.
It's also a predominant sign of infantile psychosis.
In 1963, a study was filmed called The Development of Infantile Psychosis. You can still watch it today. A little boy, just 3 years old, sits alone, rocking, repeating movements, avoiding eye contact, lining up objects. Back then, they said that he was psychotic, but he wasn't. He was very obviously autistic. This is proof that autism did exist in your day. It is just that it didn't have the name that society could hold compassion with yet. I hear people say, we didn't have all this autism back in my day. Yes, you did. You just called it something else. It looked like your quiet cousin who didn't play as intended or like everybody else. Your uncle who lived in his shed and found peace in repetition and creation. Your auntie who had her ways, her rituals, her lists, her routine. And if somebody broke it, all hell would break loose. Your nan who stayed home because crowds felt unbearable. And you might have labelled her as just anxious or maybe quirky. The teacher's pet who copied everything to survive. The little girl who cried when plans changed and was told that she was too much. They was there. We was there. We was just misread, mislabeled, and misunderstood. In that 1963 film, what we now know as self-regulation was described as withdrawal. What we see as sensory overwhelm was seen as emotional flatness or peculiar behaviours. And what was simply different was called psychosis. And for women and girls, well, it was hidden beneath politeness and perfectionism. We weren't seen as autistic. We were shy, dramatic, moody, overtly emotional, or overly deep, and seeing patterns that weren't there. We became masters of masking before we even knew what masking was. And for those of us born in brown and black bodies, our difference wasn't just misunderstood. It may well be punished, because even less empathy or compassion may be extended to us. Our sensory distress was mistaken for disrespect. Our difference labelled as weirdness. Our safest bet was our shutdown, and that might be labelled as cold or an attitude-based problem. And at home, where culture comes into play, it may even have been labelled as demonic or a test. This is what misunderstanding does. It erases humanity and it replaces it with pathology. It's exactly why many of us learned to blend in, to shrink, to perform goodness, or we wouldn't have been safe. And yes, our compassion has grown as a society, our understanding has deepened, and we now have words like sensory processing, regulation, neurodiversity, and masking. And we have research, resources, awareness, and it's all great. But what we've built in language and understanding, we've lost a little in our systems because the systems haven't actually softened with our knowledge. They've hardened. The world has become louder, faster, brighter, busier. The classrooms rigid, expectations higher, and patience performative. And now we're seeing more children flagging up, not because there's suddenly more autism, but because the gaps between human need and human pace have never been wider. These children aren't broken. They're burning out trying to exist in systems that reward compliance over well-being, performance over peace. Their nervous systems are saying what many of ours once couldn't. This world isn't built for the way that I'm wired. So when somebody says, autism didn't exist in my day, it did. You just didn't see it because it didn't look the way that you expected it to. That little boy in the study, he wasn't broken. He was just born in a time that could not see him clearly. But now we can. Now we do. Now we see him. And we also see her. And we also see us. And we're making sure that no autistic child, woman, or person of colour ever has to hide their humanity again, just to be seen as human.